So how can they manage the file, the versions? So we go to the next part, is the versioning models. So in fact, we have two main models of versioning. This is lock, modify, unlock, and copy, modify, merge. And in this part, I also introduced you about the central version control and distributed version control. Okay, so that is a way to manage the resource. In the versioning control, so we have two versioning models: the lock, modify, unlock, and copy, modify, merge. Okay, so first go to the lock, modify, unlock. Lock, modify, unlock. The versioning control is saying about how can you manage when you work with your teammate. For example, here you have we have Andy and Bobby, the two teammates in one repository. Okay, so we have the common resource A in the common repository, and Andy and Bobby check out this resource to their local copy. They get the local copy to their workspace. Okay, and then Andy need to edit that resource. So when Andy want to edit the resource A, Andy lock the file A and begins modifying it. Okay, and at that time, sorry, Bobby also want to edit that resource, but she can't because there is a lock in that resource. So Bobby need to wait for Andy to finish the editing and unlock the file. When Andy finish editing the resource A, that is the version of Andy, he commits to the repository, and now in the repository, that is a version of Andy, and Andy need and now Andy want to edit that resource, but the version of Andy, version of Bobby, that is the original A, and the version in the common repository, that is the version of Andy, is different, right? So she need to get that version first, and then put the lock on that resource and edit in her local copy of the file. Okay. After finishing, to modifying that resource, Bobby commit the version, that is merging the version of both Andy and Bobby to the common repository. Finish. And Andy can update that version to his local file to get the last version from the common repository. Okay, so what happened? What happened with this model? I mean, do you like this model? Is it easy to maintain the consistency? Yeah, right. Yeah. So, sorry. In this versioning model, you see that we don't have any concurrent editing of multiple members in the project, right? They cannot concurrently edit a resource. So we it's very easy to maintain the consistency of one resource, right? Or the common resource. But what's the problem? What is the disadvantage of that model? Yeah, that is the problem. Whenever Bobby wants to edit the same file at the same time with Andy, so if two members want to concurrently edit one resource, so only one can edit, and others need to wait for him or her to complete the editing. So it will reduce the productivity, right? Because we need to wait, and sometimes Andy may take a long time to edit a resource, or even he or she may forget to unlock to the resource or whatever, and many other situations. So it will reduce the productivities, right? So that's why this model is like, when I was a student, this model is very popular and common. But currently, we don't use that model anymore. We use the model copy, modify, merge. Okay. Okay, so let's look at this model. Still, the same. Andy and Bobby check out the resource A from the common repository to their local copy, okay, in their workspace. And then if they need to edit the file concurrently at the same time, so they can do it at the same time. Okay, so Andy edit the resource A to Andy version, and Bobby also edit the resource A to Bobby version. Okay, and if, for example, if Bobby finished before Andy, she will commit that version to the common repository. And then when Andy finish editing, if he want to commit his version to the repository, he can't do that. Because the version of Andy now, okay, the version that Andy, before Andy editing, and the version of the repository is different. The version Andy before editing is A, and the version of the repository now is Bobby, is not A anymore. So he need to resolve the conflict, if any, between the two different versions, right? So in this case, maybe there is a local conflict, so he need to resolve that conflict before committing his version to the repository. So he need to get or update the version, the last version in the common repository, with merge. That means he need to merge the version in the common repository, that is the Bobby version, and his local version, this is Andy version. You need to merge, okay? If there's no conflict, it will automatically merge. But if, for example, Andy deletes this statement, but Bobby edit that statement also, so Andy need to talk with Bobby or look at the source code to do the merge and to decide which version should be used, or maybe do some modification for the merging. And then he now can commit the merged version to the common repository. Okay, And Bobby also can update that version to her local file, okay? So what happened? What's the problem with that model? Yeah, we don't see that. To multiple users multiple members in a project can edit the same result at the same time. So it will increase the productivities. However, when there is a conflict, so we need to resolve the conflict and we need to merge, right? Manually, the two different versions of resource. So that is like it's not easy to maintain the consistency. If Andy maybe say, Bobby, what you do? So ignore the Bobby chain and only get the Andy version, for example. So it's like some risk for the merging, right? So that's why for the merging, we also have some rules for the merging. If there is a conflict, and you need to talk to the Bobby to find out the best solution for the merging, or to resolve the conflict. To resolve the conflict. So that is a case for that model. And because it's like increase the productivity, so that's why now we use this versioning model. And one more things about this, that is about the way you manage the repository. So we have centralized version control. That is, we have only one repository, and each member will have the working copy and commit or update directly to the common repository. That is the centralized version control. So do you think that if somebody use the version control system like Git, for example, use the centralized version control, or it's not that model, that is the distributed version control. So many students say to me that they use the centralized version control, but in fact, they use the distributed version control. So in the distributed version control, you can see here, there are multiple repositories. We have only one remote repository that is a common repository for all the members. However, in each workstation of each member, they will have local repository here. And in the working copy of each member, they can commit or update to the local repository like this. And then after some commit, they may push from the local repository to the remote repository. And they can pull from the last version of remote repository to the local repository. So that is, we have distributed, that means we have multiple repository, that is like a clone, that is something like the clone version of the remote repository to the local one. And the member in teams may commit to the local repository and then push to the remote repository. Okay. So why now we use that distributed version control? What is the advantages of the distributed version control over the central version control? Okay, so before going to the comparison between the local centralized version control and distributed version control, we will see the in detail for the distributed version control. So we have some term for that. When you want to have the local repository, you clone from the remote repository, from the remote one, from the server to the local for working. That is local repository. And Andy and Bobby also have the local working copy here, and she or he can concurrently edit the resource at the same time, and can commit locally. And then from the local repository, Andy can push to the remote repository. And when Bobby wants to push from the from her local repository, she cannot do because it may have conflict. So she need to pull, that is fetch with merge. So get the last version in the remote repository and merge with her local repository. Okay, and then she can push now with no conflict. Yeah. And Andy can pull the last version from the remote repository to the local repository. Okay, so that is the more detail on distributed version control. So my question is, what is the advantages of the distributed version control compared to the centralized version control? So that's my question, and you should maybe think about it, maybe look at the internet or do something, and try to answer me at the next lecture, okay?